Lots of technical difficulties this morning. Welcome to another Armchair Fantasy Football live stream. Before we get going today, make sure you check out the merchandise. We're updating the Christmas merch. This is not Christmas merch. This is just a Christmas sweater I felt like putting on for today's stream. There's a link to our Armchair Fantasy Football store in the description, along with a link to our Discord. Highly suggest you join that. That's free. I'll be answering your questions a lot quicker than I would be on YouTube itself because I get more notifications from Discord with more and more of you pouring in. Those are for my super interactive subscribers who want immediate answers. Make sure you join the Discord there. We've got a general tab. We've got a starter sit tab. We have trade suggestions tabs, which I know the deadline has passed for some of you, but for Dynasty or other league formats where maybe you don't have a trade deadline, we can go with that. We also have just a Corey's research tab where I'll randomly pour in different research that I hope is relative to your team. You can always throw in requests for that as well. I see Tino's here. What's going on, Tino? So yeah, make sure you do that for sure. Again, Discord link is in the description. That's a way to get much more involved in this channel, maybe have your voice heard even more. I try and make an effort to answer every single comment on this channel. But yeah. All right, CJ Stroud or Brock Purdy? I think I'm going to go with Stroud just for the volume. They both have about the same level of matchup. I got a question earlier from, I believe, MA Football Guy on was Brock Purdy or Tua. Tua going up against the Commanders might be the most enticing quarterback pick yet because the Commanders do allow the most amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. And the more and more we get through the season, folks, we can really start to rely on those stats because we have a larger sample size. TS is in here. What's going on? So, yeah, we're going to go through a couple of updates, but this is really your time to ask me any questions as we're about an hour and 5 minutes out from noon kickoff, especially going into fantasy, the playoffs. So if you have questions in general about long-term situations, we can go with that as well. Tino says, I need a miracle. Tino, I'm going to need to hear about this miracle scenario we need to happen. What do you need to happen to make the playoffs? But yeah, folks, I'm Corey. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. And most importantly, ask any fantasy football-related questions you have in the live chat. We've still got a little over an hour. I'm going to do some deep diving, last second, procrastinator-like research here in front of all of you. But we'll go through a few updates first. Chris Olave is in, the man in the thumbnail. Another part of that New Orleans wide receiving core that's really been fluctuating in and out. We've had lots of injury issues. We've just had lack of production, too, with Derek Carr not really throwing the ball down the field. Alvin Kamara was out at the beginning. We know Michael Thomas has been in and out all year. But Chris Olave is in today. And he's been around top 15, top 20 in terms of fantasy production, depending on the point format that you play with. Ezekiel Elliott is expected to play. Now, if you would have asked me if this mattered a lot maybe 2 months ago, I would say it does because Ramondre Stevenson got out of the gates very slow. Still pretty involved as a pass catcher out of the backfield, but for the most part, Ramondre Stevenson has been phenomenal. I mean, he's about the only bright spot on this team. I mean, you can look at the defense and say there's a key pieces, but fantasy-wise, we really only care about the offensive players here unless you're in some exotic format. Ramondre Stevenson, maybe he'll be on the trade block. Who knows? But, yeah, Zeke is expected to play. I really don't think this impacts Ramondre's usage a whole lot. The main thing that impacts somebody like Ramondre Stevenson's usage on a team that is as bad as the Patriots right now is game script. You need this game to stay somewhat close. Because obviously if the Patriots are down multiple possessions and they're trying to win, and maybe they aren't if they're going to tank for a quarterback with what's going on with Mac Jones right now in that offense. But if they are trying to win, they're going to go throw heavy and not just little check down passes. We're talking like throws down the field where maybe Ramondre is kind of factored out. Aaron Rodgers is unlikely to play this season. You know, when I first saw this news, I thought it was maybe a bit of a smokescreen. Like, okay, well, we've just been getting teased for, I don't know, the last 2 months that this guy is somehow going to miraculously come back from an Achilles tear. And now he's out, but it's more so a contention thing. He said he'd come back if the Jets were in a position to make the playoffs. And as more and more weeks go by, now Zach Wilson's been replaced with Tim Boyle. It's not looking too likely. Let's throw your chat up on the screen as well. Thank you all for joining today. I'm a little congested. It is snowing outside, but we're going to power through this. So... Got a few folks who are just jumping in. There is a link to my Discord in the live chat. And if you want immediate answers, if you want little research blurbs, I put those out once every few days. If you want just about anything as we head into the most important time of the year, not just Christmas, but the fantasy football playoffs, highly suggest it's free. Go into the description and join the Discord. All right, just getting your chat up here so you guys can kind of understand where I'm at in terms of going down the line and answering everything. Cleveland D for the playoffs, a good idea. This is from TS. Yeah, I think Cleveland defense at any point is a good idea, even without Myles Garrett, if he's not 100% or not playing for a bit. The front seven, the secondary has been phenomenal. I looked it up yesterday. They're allowing 140 passing yards per game. That's the lowest mark in the league. So I'm good with the Cleveland defense, really, regardless of the matchup. Tino's Time says, this guy I'm facing has Justin Herbert, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, who's been on fire. We were big Freiermuth buyers going in to the season, and the first two and a half months have been pretty much a failure. But then Matt Canada goes, more opportunity opens up, Freiermuth is healthy again, and things are looking up. And Atlanta defense, and Tino says, okay, I need to get one win to clinch, and I've lost 2 in a row. Well, that's not a miracle. You just got to get off the losing train. But let me know if you have any questions outside of the CJ or Brock question. Again, Tino, I would roll with CJ just based off of sheer volume. One of the best volume passers in the league right now. Takes care of the football, as we know. Mark is in here. Good to see you, Mark. I think it's my first time seeing you in here, so thanks for jumping in and following the train and asking your questions. I am here to help. Happy football day. All right, we've got PPR. I need 2. Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson. All right, if we look at that situation, let's just jump into a browser window so you guys can kind of see. Sometimes I'll go on my phone and do a little research, but let's just make this a more interactive experience. All right, so Hall, Montgomery, Robinson. Let's jump into it. This is for Mark De Silva. We know Breece Hall is going to be the main source of this offense. Questionable, but it looks like he will be active with the hamstring. He was not on my injury updates, so I apologize for that. I just assumed he was going. The real enticing thing with Breece Hall, and we saw a bit of it last year, although it was a smaller sample size, is the pass catching upside. So, Mark, you told me this is PPR. This really matters right here. When you have someone who's averaging, we got 49 divided by 11, someone who's averaging 4.5, maybe 5 targets per game, and specifically the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, this is really enticing to me because, yes, we have a team that's been losing a lot of football games. Yes, we have a team that doesn't really trust in their quarterback situation right now until 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is back. I really like Breece Hall regardless of the week. Going up against Atlanta, the secondary is really tough. The interior, yes, they have Calais Campbell, but when you have somebody who is really the only main source of offense on this team, yes, Garrett Wilson's phenomenal, but the quarterback situation's so bad, I would almost argue that it mitigates his upside. Breece Hall is going to be leaned on. All right, so we have Breece Hall going up against the Falcons. David Montgomery, obviously coming back from a foot injury and sharing touches with Jahmyr Gibbs. These guys were really alternating in terms of series. You know, typically with something like this, you'd see Jahmyr Gibbs drive it between the 20s, and you'd see David Montgomery be your red zone or goal-to-go situation guy. That's not the case here. They've just been switching series off, and they've been a pretty compatible duo for the most part. Going against Baltimore is a very tall task, all right, especially in PPR, and this is what I really want to highlight. Montgomery is not a PPR back. In the past, he kind of was when you look at his second and third year with the Bears, but he is strictly kind of that Jamal Williams archetype. And lastly, we have Brian Robinson. One of the biggest shocks of the year that I don't think is being talked about enough. I was hitting him for lack of efficiency. I mean, he's hanging right around 4 yards per carry now. It was not good for the first 2 months of the year. But this is somebody who's got a decent amount of pass catching upside on what is still the most pass-heavy offense in the league. He's running back 5.5 PPR. And Robinson goes up against Miami. So a decent defense, front seven, not phenomenal. I am going to go with Brian Robinson Jr. and Breece Hall. Breece Hall is the main source of that pretty horrible offense. But again, it's kind of process of elimination here when you look at someone winning by default, really, with the bad quarterback situation. And then you have Brian Robinson Jr., who has the better matchup than David Montgomery, and he also has pass-catching upside. All right, so Mark, I hope that helps you out. Tino says, oh, and he just traded for A.J. Brown. Oh, this is your opponent? Yikes. Yeah, A.J. Brown's been on freaking fire. MA Football Guy says, Corey, love the sweater, man, and happy football. I'm going to start Henry over Achane. I don't hate that because of the fact that Achane played all of, a couple snaps and then was yanked with a knee injury. I don't know how cautious Mike McDaniel and that team's going to be. Thank you for the sweater compliment, my man. I got this last year or 2 years ago. I don't remember. Very soft. Love it a lot. We'll probably be wearing it on most of these streams. So Sports Spotlight says start one at flex and one at wide receiver. Noah Brown, who, is in. Marquise Brown, Trey McBride, Chuba Hubbard, PPR. Regardless of the health of Miles Sanders, I'm actually a pretty big Chuba Hubbard fan for the most part. Now, Trey McBride's been seeing more volume. He's an interesting case study. Where did my browser go? Did I just X out of it? Wow. Okay. 1 second. I'm sorry. That was the quickest exit I've ever done on a tab. I mean, that thing just vanished. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Promise I will be quick. Wow, I had like 4 other tabs open too. That sucks. Okay. This is looking at Trey McBride. We're almost good. Okay, we're here. What on earth was that? All right, we're back. All right. McBride, interesting because when Kyler came back, I really thought he'd lean hard into his old college teammate in Marquise Brown. McBride's been one of the more consistent tight ends if you look at the last 6 or 7 weeks. Targets are there. Catch percentage is there. It usually is for tight ends unless you're a down-the-field guy, but that's just not how the Cardinals operate. Look at the situation with Zach Ertz the last couple of years, and he has not been touchdown reliant. If we look strictly at PPR, there's 13 points, 9 points, 21 points, 5 is a down week, and then 26 points-ish, 25 and a half. So McBride is interesting. Again, answering Sports Spotlight's question here. Chuba Hubbard I do love, but in PPR, we have to really ask ourselves how worth it is. Is it going to be? Yes, he's kind of stealing that job from Miles Sanders, knows the system better. I don't love doubling up in terms of 2 wide receivers. I don't love 2 like receiver stacks in general, and Pittsburgh secondary has been somewhat vulnerable. I'm between a couple here. I am going to leave Chuba Hubbard out just because of the lack of pass catching upside. What do we do against Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's going to get in a lot of ugly slugfests. Marquise Brown has been seeing more volume as well. Noah Brown. I mean, he had the 2 great weeks, right? So we need to rely on him to come back from the injury and perform the way he was when he left. I'd be okay with Noah Brown and Trey McBride or Marquise Brown and Trey McBride. McBride is actually seeing a more consistent influx of targets than his counterpart in Marquise Brown is. So I'm either going Noah Brown and Trey McBride or Marquise Brown and Trey McBride. It's a flip a coin scenario for sure. If you don't feel comfortable with that stack against Pittsburgh, I don't blame you, Sports Spotlight. Then we go Noah Brown. Even with the lack of consistency from Noah Brown, yes, we did have someone who was getting hot before he got hurt. And Chuba Hubbard, I mean, I keep referencing it, but I'll just show all of you. Not really involved in the passing game when you look at the whole season and really his career in general. Yes, he had 1 really good game here, but usually it's 2, 2, 1. We'll have a couple outliers. Historically, Chuba Hubbard got 16, 33. Yeah, he's averaging a little under 3 targets per game, so really not that involved. So I'm going either Noah Brown and Trey McBride, or I'll do the Arizona stack if you're comfortable with it. Okay. We've got TS going, do you like Cade Otton this week? I need a streamer and not much left. Tyler Conklin and Kyle Pitts are available. Funny story, TS. I accidentally dropped, Juwan Johnson. I'm in a deeper league, half PPR for some money. I was just going through my lineup. I needed to pick up another kicker because Tyler Bass is on bye, and I just straight up dropped him. So I picked up Cade Otton. Otton has been pretty consistent for the most part. I mean, again, with the tight end market, we cannot be asking too much. We kind of just need some level of a consistent graph here for targets. Godwin being a game-time decision helps, but it does look like he's going to be in. I think, for the most part, Otton's fine. I mean, for a streamer, he's great. He's not going to light up the scoreboard by any means. This is somebody who, in my opinion, is taking a pretty significant step forward. He's on pace for about 500-plus yards, and in the tight end market, that could get you around top 12 range. He's at 16 right now in half PPR. Not a whole lot of touchdown reliancy. You know, he's been able to put together some nice weeks just based off volume. There's 10 there, there's 9 there, there's 8 there, there's 8 there. So I'm okay with Cade Otton against Carolina. We do have to be a little careful because, I mean, this Panthers team is pretty horrible. So the Bucs might go run heavy. But then again, when you look at run pass ratio. The Bucs are not a run-heavy team at all. They never really have been if you look at the last few years. This has kind of been their identity. They pass the ball 60.44% of the time. That's 9th most in the league. So early and often is what we need in terms of production from Cade Otton, but for the most part, I think he will get his volume. I'm fine with a Cade Otton stream against the Panthers, even though the game script might say otherwise. All right, so that was for TS, and then we have Tino saying, get that snow out of here. Yeah, I agree, but also I feel like we're pretty lucky. At least I'm in the Midwest. We've had snow for Halloween. I remember dressing up as like an M&M or a Power Ranger as a kid, and I had to wear like a sweatshirt underneath because it was just coming down like 2, 3, 4 inches of snow. So I'm pretty thankful that we didn't get anything significant until, what is it, December 3rd. I'll take my wins where I can get them. MA Football Guy says, would you still flex Reed over Downs? I mean, against the Titans secondary, if Downs is 100%, I'm feeling okay with it. Reed has been really involved, and the thing we have to look for, MA Football Guy, is with Jayden Reed, they're actually getting him involved in the run a little bit because of the lack of availability of running backs. We have Aaron Jones going down. Oh, Jayden Reed is now questionable. This is not a game I want to play. He was in practice on Friday. I do not want to play the game, so I'm going to switch it up on you, MA Football Guy. I do not want to play the game of waiting somebody out who's playing in prime time. Jayden Reed is playing in the 7:20 game tonight for Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. I don't want to play this game. I don't. He's been very involved, relatively involved for somebody. They don't have his rushing stats. Well, that sucks. For somebody who's in a Packers offense that was kind of looking for their identity, what's promising to me is a couple of things. Targets, snap count, touchdown involvement. We can go here. I mean, a lot of Packers fans are really upset with Christian Watson, but who's been... No? Okay. Who's been really filling that vacancy is, I mean, twofold. It's been Romeo Doubs and it's been Jayden Reed. And if we look, that's our exact answer for red zone targets. Now, granted, we do have a smaller sample size of games for somebody like Christian Watson. He's only played in 8, so he's missed 3. But it's been Doubs and Reed, and they've been more reliable from a reception percentage perspective as well. Jayden Reed's been more just involved around the red zone. I just want to see dudes rushing. Yeah, nothing significant, but most of these rushing attempts have been coming in the last couple of games, and they have also been in the red zone. So that's giving us some touchdown upside. The 2 fumbles. Yeah, I mean, end arounds, jet sweeps, reversals. Those are going to happen when you're kind of switching up the playbook and you have to get creative when both Aaron Jones and Emmanuel Wilson, your running backs 1 and 3, go down. I'm going to go Downs because I don't want to play with the primetime injury, and it is up against a Titans secondary that's given up well over 200 yards through the air per game. Gardner Minshew, comfortable now for the most part. I mean, he's been in this role for almost 3 months. Anthony Richardson was down and out from the jump this season. So I'm okay with Downs over Reed. Now, if Reed was 100%, I would go Reed, even in the cold weather, because of that rushing upside. I mean, if he gets 1 or 2 explosive rushes for an extra 20, 30 yards, which is what's been happening, you saw the stat, 7 rushes for 81 yards. All of a sudden, I'm kind of intrigued, at least until Aaron Jones is 100%. I don't care if he plays. He's not 100% right now. He's been in and out all year ever since he tweaked the hammy in Chicago. But yeah, I'm going to go Downs this week. Rest of season, I'm going Jayden Reed. Sports Spotlight says, I don't know if it's just me, but the Discord link says expired. Let me refresh that. I'm sorry about that. Actually, you know what? I am just going to... This is Sports Spotlight. I'm just going to throw the Discord link in the live chat, and we'll go from there. So, folks, if you have not already, join the Discord. It's free. I'm giving you stat updates. I'll show you it, actually. Why not? Why not? This is what we're looking at. So we've got a general chat. I'll tweak your lineups here and there. We've got start and sit. I get a pretty decent influx of requests. This is what I get for trying to use Discord on a browser on a week-by-week basis. We just started this a couple weeks ago. And then I need trade requests. This is kind of dying because we do have the trade deadline passing for a lot of people. And then Corey's research, I will just randomly drop reports in here. This is probably where I've been the most active the last couple of weeks. But I'll just randomly drop different contexts. This is something that I think is going to be very helpful for a lot of you. Went into Fantasy Pros, did a little deep dive research, and found the easiest remaining schedules at each position. So if you're in the trade market, or if you're in a position where Russell Wilson is on the roster, yeah, then we do something like that, right? And we maybe upgrade him depending on the matchup. Isaiah Pacheco's got a very nice remaining schedule, including a favorable matchup against Green Bay, where his team is not only favored, but Green Bay is allowing a lot of yards per carry. So yeah, that's where we are for that. Folks, we are at 7 likes for the live stream. If we could get to 10 before kickoff, that would be phenomenal. But yeah, so I am going to drop the chat link right in the live chat here. So I just threw that in the live chat. Feel free to join. The Discord is free. I'm going over research a ton. And I'm just there to help you more in a one-on-one scenario, right? So there's only 7 or 8 people there right now. I will get back to you pretty quick. I get back to everybody, but probably more likely to get back to you quickly there right now. My computer is dying. Okay. So, yep, Sports Spotlight, that's in there now. MA Football Guy says, Brees or Jameer, locked into the playoffs already. That's what we like to hear. Brees or Jameer, I'm going Brees more times than not, just because, again, he is like the main source of the offense. All right. Jared McMichael says, Garrett Wilson or Deebo Samuel? Let's dive into that one. So I'm looking at a couple things here. I'm looking at past usage. I'm looking at target share. I'm looking at matchups. This was with Tim Boyle. I mean, 10 targets for 44 yards is not optimal, but we're going to deal with it, right? So this was still a nice 17-point day when you look at PPR. Going up against the Atlanta secondary, not the biggest fan of that, but then we got Deebo Samuel coming back from his injury. He's been banged up all year again. He's got that rushing aspect. Brandon Ayuk has taken over as the clear-cut wide receiver 1. Going up against Philly, it is a more favorable matchup in terms of their secondary. We've just seen a lot of ebbs and flows. We've got a couple different injuries here. We've got lapses of usage, but when he's 100%, he is being utilized a decent amount. And against Philly, a secondary that's young and vulnerable, that's like the one knock a lot of people have on them right now for Deebo. I'm going to go with Deebo. He has a much better matchup. Rest of season, I would go Garrett Wilson because there's just such a heavy reliancy on him. I mean, if we go to just I want to say Garrett Wilson is one of the best target shares in the entire league. I want to say that. 1, 2, 3rd. So Garrett Wilson's being targeted more often than everybody in the league right now, not named Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill. That's pretty good company to be in. He's above A.J. Brown. He's above Puka Nacua. He's above Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The problem is, obviously, the production isn't there. The yards down the field isn't there because of the talent under center. And I feel like that goes without being said. But I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel. More favorable matchup, better quarterback situation, and he looks to be healthy again. So that's for Gerard. Hope I can help out there. Jada says, yo, is Dallas Goedert in? I don't think so. I got a doubtful notification. We can go back and look. Yeah, he's still doubtful. 325, officially doubtful. We might not see him until conveniently enough, right when the playoffs start. So he'll have Dallas, Seattle, New York, Arizona. That's a nice playoff schedule right there. Folks, if for whatever reason, if you're not in a keeper league and somebody drops Dallas Goedert, because of this playoff schedule right here, I would highly suggest you pick him up. Highly suggest. All right. South Dakota State. I did not know that. Okay, so yeah, Goddard not in. Is that an ugly Christmas jacket you have on? It's an ugly Christmas sweater, so you're close. MA Football Guy says, flex Mostert or pick up Curtis Samuel. I'm probably going to flex Mostert. Samuel isn't the most pass-heavy offense in the league, but it's not the most favorable matchup this week. And should I drop Ingram for Njoku, 6-6, and trying to lock into the playoffs? MA football guy's a grinder like me. Doesn't just play in one league, doesn't just play in two, plays in a lot. I'm in 6, and I think you have me beat. I know Evan Ingram had some ebbs and flows, but for the most part, on par for what he did last year. No touchdowns, which is rough. But despite that, he's still the tight end 12. We look at Njoku, one of the highest target shares of any tight end. Now, we do have an interesting quarterback situation with DTR in there, but DTR loves Njoku. He stepped in a couple weeks ago. Yeah, you're not going to find many games where a tight end gets 15 targets. Now, 56 yards on 7 receptions out of it. No, that's not what we thought we were going to get, but it's still in that range of possibilities. When you get 15 targets, he's still had a productive day at the office. No one's complaining about 12.6 points in a PPR format. We look at remaining schedule. Not great. Okay. Yeah, you could cut up Chicago and the Texans secondaries, and then things get really rough championship weekend with New York. And then the secondary of the Bengals has been middle. It's here. All right, so that's what we're looking at there. I thought it was on that screen. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm going to go Njoku. Just what we've seen with DTR, and he seems to be looking more towards the middle of the field. Njoku is completely taken most, if not all, of the usage that Amari Cooper was seeing. So I'm going to go with that. All right. We're going to go with Njoku. I think that's a good move. It does. That expires. Is Tino in the Discord? Tino's not in the Discord. Yeah, you can join Jadis. Again, Discord link is in the live chat. I just threw it up about 5 or 6 comments ago. You can see it on the corner of the screen here. I'm so disoriented when I do that. But, yeah, completely free. I give you fantasy advice. We have a start-sit chat. We have a trades chat. We have a general chat. And then I will occasionally just throw research in there. So, yeah. Again, folks, if you're just joining, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. Trying to get to 10 likes. We're at 7 right now, it looks like. Any fantasy football-related questions you have, we've got about 40 minutes to go here before kickoff, and then we'll hop off. We'll try and get on later as well. We will see. Otherwise, early on in the week. I'm going to try and prioritize live streams more. I was cranking out videos earlier. I think I'm going to try and stick to live streams for the most part and then go from there. Occasionally, you'll get a video going into the off season, but I want to be able to answer your questions right now. Not when I see the comment an hour or two later, right now in live time. So I'm trying to prioritize that more. All right. MA Football Guy says, what do you mean I don't want to play that game? Did you mean don't play Reed? I would not play Reed because he's got the chest injury. Looks like he's going to be a game time decision, MA Football Guy, and he's prime time. So that means we have to wait until 7 p.m. to see maybe he'll play. And what happens if he doesn't play? Well, you just bench somebody else for him, and then you have to go out on the waivers and probably get somebody you're not interested in, like a Dontavion Wicks or something. And then you have to hope that they do well. I would not play the waiting game with anybody who looks like a game time decision and is playing in prime time unless you have a tip and know, oh, okay, they might be in it. It looks like they're leaning towards they're going to play. And even then, I wouldn't play that game unless it's a top-tier person at their position, which Jaden Reed's been good, but not that good. Tino's saying 10. What do you mean? Let's get to 20 likes. Hey, I appreciate it. Jadis says, you're in the Discord. Why not? Dallas Goedert playing. Is he in? I saw he's doubtful. Yeah, it looks like maybe next week. Chess0516 is in here. Says, with Olave playing now, start one running back and one flex out of this pool of players. We have Kamara, Olave, Tank Dell, Kyron Williams. Kamara and Olave is an interesting stack that I'm not opposed to because of the consistency we've seen from both. We look at Olave's usage when healthy and when playing, which he's been honestly pretty great this year. A lot of people are saying they're disappointed with him, maybe lack of touchdowns. He's on pace for another 1,000-yard season. He should surpass his total from last year. He's going to have a few touchdowns, not a whole lot there, no fumbles. Not in the greatest situation with how Derek Carr's been performing, but he's still getting his usage. I would go Chris Olave for one of those. If we look over at Alvin Kamara, I might do the stack, to be honest with you. Tank Dell or Kyren? Kyren just exploded last week. Going up against that front seven, I'm pretty reluctant, but you can't really deny usage like this. Against Cleveland's front seven, I'm not a huge fan, especially in a PPR format of a running back, regardless of what they did last week. And let's see. Tank Dell. Tank Dell. Tank Dell's on a touchdown streak. You've got some good choices here, my friend. I would either go Tank Dell or Chris Olave, and then definitely Alvin Kamara with the pass catching upside and overall usage. Tank Dell has been phenomenal. I mean, my goodness. We're going to get a 1,000-yard season out of somebody who is a late-round pick out of Houston, gets to stay home. Preseason standout. I know a lot of people were hyping up Marquez Callaway a couple years ago. This one, the hype's real, right? I would go Tank Dell or Chris Olave along with Alvin Kamara. And we are going to leave Kyren as the lone man out. All right, but Kamara is your running back this week. Maybe next week, says Jada. Yep, that was for Goddard. May Football Guy says, I'm in 5. Oh, I've got you beat. Not by much, though. No, I still respect the grind. Time for pizza and beer. Let's go. Maybe I should order pizza. I don't know what I'm going to have for lunch. And beer is always good. Downs it is. Yep, no problem. Tino says, who do I start at flex? Travis tomorrow night, Olave, or Dell? Olave and Dell are probably better. Because we do have, you're talking about Travis Etienne. We do have Travis Etienne being questionable right now, last time I checked. Questionable against Cincinnati. Expected to play. Has not been very efficient. I will be honest. I'm a little disappointed in that. We have had some pass catching upside. This is still the number 3 running back in half PPR formats. But for the most part, hasn't been the best. I would probably go with Tank Dell just because of the high usage and decent matchup. That's what I would do, Tino. I'm probably going Tank Dell. I would go either wide receiver if we're talking PPR here. That's what I would do. Yeah. All right. Montgomery or Jamar PPR flex. This one sucks. This one sucks, Jelly, because obviously Joe Burrow out, Jake Browning in. This one depresses me. Because this isn't a question a couple weeks ago, right? But now with the situation we're in, I mean, this is horrible. 7 targets, 2 catches, 12 yards, bailed by a touchdown. It's night and day what happens when Joe Burrow's in and when Joe Burrow's not in. And he's still going to have a 1,000-yard season. That's crazy. I am probably still going Jamar Chase, PPR. The targets are there. We can hope and pray that Jake Browning's going to get a little bit more comfortable. I don't know how true that's going to be, how much that's going to come to fruition. With David Montgomery, he's a sustainable back. He has a ton of touchdown upside, no pass catching upside, so it's really touchdown reliancy here. And yeah, that's gone well. Against Jacksonville, I am probably still going with Jamar. I don't want to, but that's probably the best out of the two. Drop Jeff Wilson Jr. to stash Dearness Johnson. Yeah, I would say that's decent. It's kind of unknown with Miami, right? We've had so many injuries. All of a sudden, 2 could go down, and maybe Jeff Wilson Jr. is the next up. But we could say the same thing with Cleveland, all the injuries they're having. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. They aren't contagious. But Nick Chubb down, Dearness rising up in the depth chart right behind Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford. Yeah, I would say Dearness is a decent stash because that team, especially when we're talking about the Browns, they prioritize the run a lot. So I would feel safe about that. Jeff Wilson Jr. is on a more pass-heavy team. Yes, they've had some studs in Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Some of those have been off of screen passes or, other ways to involve the running back than just handing it off. But in general, I would feel a little better about Dearness Johnson just because this team is so run-heavy, right? They're without their quarterback. They're down to DTR. No offense to him at all. But they're not throwing the ball 40 times a game with him. They just aren't. That's not this team's identity. They weren't throwing the ball 40 times a game with Deshaun Watson. I think Dearness Johnson has a better chance to be successful and more consistent should his name be called. So yeah, I would go with that, Jelly. And folks, again, just giving a few updates here. Chris Olave's in, going up against the division rivals this week. And then we've got Ezekiel Elliott expected to play. Not much news there because, again, Ramondre Stevenson's been playing out of his freaking mind. He's really the only bright spot on that offense in New England. Aaron Rodgers unlikely to play for the rest of the season unless the Jets go nuts and run the table the next couple weeks. He wants that team to be in playoff contention. So if you're holding on to Aaron Rodgers and you're not in a keeper league, I'm sorry. Jonathan Taylor's out 3 to 5 weeks. I would just say avoid this situation in Dynasty. I'm aware that he got locked down in a long-term contract, but first we have somebody who claims he doesn't want to play for the team. Then we have somebody who's really having trouble with the deal and negotiating. Then we have somebody who goes to IR to start the season. I don't want to deal with this roller coaster when, in general, when you look at running backs, that's probably the most replaceable position in fantasy, right? We could easily go out there and get David Montgomery instead and probably swing for him in a trade involving Jonathan Taylor because he's the running back 2 for his team. But what have we learned? He's compatible with Jahmyr Gibbs. And we can say that about a lot of different backfields now, considering we don't have these bell cow running backs that we had before, like Jonathan Taylor or like Derrick Henry, right? I'm avoiding Jonathan Taylor in Dynasty. I am trading the heck out of him. If you want to sell him high, wait till he comes back and has a decent game, and then ditch him. There's too much going on with the injuries, the contract negotiations, the drama. He's not on a good football team. Marquise Brown also expected to play. Chris Godwin, game time decision. He'll have a pregame workout ahead of the 3 o'clock kickoff, and Noah Brown expected to play. Paul N. is in here. Have to start 2 between Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Drake London, Romeo Doubs. Full point PPR. Well, thanks for jumping in, Paul. We will jump right into this for you. Again, folks, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Any fantasy football related questions you have in the next, it's already 11:30. Holy crap. Next half hour, we will run through them. Cooper Kupp, obviously injured a couple weeks ago. Usage going down. We could say the same thing about Puka Nacua in terms of the usage. This is a nightmare matchup. I don't like anybody playing against Cleveland. And for those of you who know me, I love to look at those game averages because at this time of year, what can we say? 70 to 80% of the season has come and gone. This is the matchup for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. And you can call me nuts for saying we need to consider benching Cooper Kupp here. I don't want to mess with that. 142 passing yards allowed per game. That's the lowest average by almost a clean 30 yards. And you see most of these are separated by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards. And then you have the Chargers, who are separated by 13 because they are horribly bad, allowing double the amount of passing yards that Cleveland does. Yeah, I don't want to mess with this matchup. I really don't. Let's look at the rest, and we'll consider. London Doubs. I like Doubs, the leader in red zone targets for the Packers. If it loads back up. Yep. Romeo Doubs, 8 for 14. He's got the 6 touchdowns. I'm going to start Doubs out of here. Drake London. It's been Heineke. It's been Ritter. It's been Heineke again. Drake London's got a tough matchup against the New York Jets at noon today. Can I convince myself to take Drake London over Cooper Kupp? I don't think I can. It's not the best matchup for either. If Drake London was going up against the Washington Commanders or the Los Angeles Chargers, maybe I feel differently about this. But historically, Cooper Kupp has corralled in. You can look at Puka too. This is what I was talking about with the lack of usage and, again, tough matchup. When we look at Cooper Kupp, we know we have somebody who is a vacuum. He's going to bring in targets. I say we stick it out with him. This Cleveland team's been winning a lot of football games. If they go up all of a sudden, whether they allow a lot of passing yards or not, it's going to have to be a pass-heavy offense for the Rams. So, Paul, I think we go Kupp. Oh. He was battling the ankle injury too. I can't do it. I can't do it. Kupp battling an ankle injury, going up against one of the toughest in the league in terms of their secondary. You can see the projections down a significant 3 or 4 points. I say we go with Puka. Drake London's still got a really tough matchup against the Jets. I'm going to go Puka Nacua and Romeo Doubs. Final answer. Feel very good about Doubs. That Packers offense, specifically in the passing category, is likely going to have to get in an arms race with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So, Paul, I'm going to go Puka Nacua. He still had more usage than Kupp, and at least he isn't hurt right now. And Romeo Doubs against Kansas City's secondary. Their front seven's been the real issue in full point PPR. Hope that helps, man. That's a tough one. Nathan says, good afternoon. Should I start Tank Dell or Rashee Rice in standard? Worried about the injury for Dell. Also, start Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray. Worried about the over-under in that game. Yeah, off the jump, I'm still going Tank Dell because of the sheer usage. I don't see anything implying a limitation for him against Denver. Yeah, because Noah Brown is also coming off an injury, so let's not act like he's going to come in and be 100% unless we've heard about that. He was limited in practice all week. I don't see the word snap count here, so we're going to have to hope this is not some smoke screen where Tank Dell only plays for a couple of snaps. I am thinking, Nathan, I'm thinking Tank Dell just because of sheer usage and overall production. Outside of Travis Kelce, you're going to have to do a real good job of convincing me that Rashee Rice is worth it, because now we have Justin Watson coming in and occasionally getting a decent amount of targets. We obviously have the main target in Kelce. And if we look here in general, it's kind of a cluster beyond Kelce. At least with Tank Dell, I think right now we can confidently say, and CJ Stroud is spreading the ball a lot, don't get me wrong. Tank Dell's the wide receiver too, behind Collins. He might even be the one at times. Rashee Rice, he's the 2. But there's not much separation between him and the rest. He does have 5 touchdowns. He's getting about 5 targets a game. But Tank Dell is just hauling in more attention. I think the fact that Noah Brown is also coming off injury shows, hey, this team's trying to come back, be full strength. They're playing for their playoff lives right now. And the usage just tells the story, right? We talk about somebody in Rashee Rice who has 56 targets in 11 games. Tank Dell has 11, 25, 35, 43, 48. Tank Dell has almost as many targets as Rashee Rice has all season in just the last 5 weeks. Much more usage. On pace for a 1,000-yard season. Better passing offense? I don't know if I'd argue that. But both very high-powered offenses between Houston and Kansas City. Tank Dell, plain and simple, plays a larger role. Noah Brown is also coming back from injury. Dalton Schultz is injured. I think even if Tank Dell only plays in half the snaps, he's going to have opportunity. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Tank Dell there, even in standard. We just want usage, right? The touchdown upside helps as well. But we want usage and down-the-field looks, and Tank Dell has definitely had some down-the-field looks. Over 15 yards per catch. Rashee Rice at 12. We're splitting hairs here, but more usage, more down-the-field looks. Those are things that I look for, components that I am really attracted to when we talk about standard play. Now, between Herbert and Murray, that's a good one. That is a good one. All right. Folks, again, we are running over your starting lineups. Any questions you have, you got questions about the fantasy playoffs, about your team, if you haven't had your trade deadline yet, dynasty questions, I will do them all. 23 minutes to kick off. Pour those in. I'm getting to everybody, I promise. Kyler Murray, obviously dynamic dual threat quarterback. He brings the rushing upside. 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty attractive to me, right? And then we have Justin Herbert, who's been a good volume passer, obviously missing Joshua Palmer, missing Mike Williams for the season. Everett has been hurt at times. Sneaky rushing upside from Herbert as of late. Going up against New England, don't love the matchup. Same with Kyler going up against Pittsburgh, don't love the matchup. He's going to have to run for his freaking life. I think we're kind of at a stalemate here. I'm going to go with Herbert. We're seeing more consistent volume through the air. We're seeing a lot of touchdowns from him this year. On pace to shatter what he had last year. Seems to be taking care of the football better. And he's tucking it and running against a lot of man coverage looks the last couple of weeks. Detroit, Green Bay, Baltimore. New England might play a little bit more zone, but nonetheless, Herbert's also got kind of that component where he's a big dude. 6'6", 236. I think he is tush-push eligible, to say the very least. I'm going to go Herbert over Murray, Nathan, and I'm definitely going Dell over Rice based off sheer usage and just roles on the offense in general. Down the field looks as well. Again, those are components I look for standard. So Dell over Rice, Herbert, not by much, but Herbert over Murray. All right. MA Football Guy says, thanks for all your advice. Enjoy your NFL Sunday. You too, man. ZXKK is in here saying T-Law or Howell. All right. Lawrence, obviously, with the primetime game going up against Cincy. We're doing deep dives today. We're going level of opposition, performances as of late. We'll go depth chart as well, just to make sure I'm not missing anything injury-wise. I know ETN is hurt, but leaning towards playing. I had to throw him into my flex. Very healthy. Very, very healthy offense. And you have a Cincinnati team giving up a lot through the air. All right, so T-Law's got a healthy team. He's been performing well as of late. The 4-touchdown game a couple weeks ago was insane. And he's playing against a pretty weak opposition for the most part. Howell, the thing I like about Sam Howell, he is in the most pass-heavy offense in the league. Now, the defense allows a lot of points, so they do have to kind of play catch-up there. But Washington takes the cake. Last year it was Tampa Bay. This year it's Washington. They throw the ball 68% of the time. Sam Howell is the volume king. His matchup, Miami, that could be a shootout. That could legitimately be a shootout. The reason I like Sam Howell so much, again, we talk about pass volume. Well, this reflects it. Find me another quarterback in the NFL right now that's thrown the ball more than 40 times 6 weeks in a row. 8 of the last 9 weeks. Yeah, he turns the ball over a lot. But he's on pace to get near 5,000 yards. He might eclipse it. Throws the ball a ton. And he flat out scores. T-Law or Howell? I'm going to go Sam Howell. We're getting way more chances when somebody throws the ball this much. He also doesn't have the strongest opposition. And the whole reason Sam Howell has had this identity of throwing the ball so much, taking a lot of chances as a result, some turnovers. And I'm not dismissing some of the dumb throws he's made. But the whole reason we've really seen this is because the defense has given up so many points. Well, look at who they're playing. This screams pass heavy to me. Miami could put up 60 on him, right? We saw it against Denver. They put up 70. I think Sam Howell's in a spot where he has to throw the ball a lot. And as a result, we look at somebody like Sam Howell and we say, I'll take my chances with somebody who's throwing the ball over 40 times a game. All right, so I feel good about that. Aura says full PPR. Ooh, Cortland Sutton or Nico Collins. I apologize. It takes a little bit for me to get through these, folks. I just want to make sure I analyze these, give you all quality answers, and don't just yank an answer out of left field. You took the time to come on here, so I want to make sure I take the time to do the research for you. So Sutton, we've got a decent amount of usage. We had that magical touchdown streak that spanned over 5 weeks, 6 of 7, going up against Houston. They're going head-to-head. So Nico Collins has been the primary target, on track for a bit of a better season. And the thing with Nico Collins and why I'm probably going to give it to him is because Noah Browns is coming off injury, Tank Dell's coming off injury, and Dalton Schultz is not playing. So I am going to take somebody who's having a better year, has more targets, more yards, not more touchdowns, but he's competitive with them on it, and is dealing with not much volume competition when you look at everyone who's hurt around him, not playing or maybe not playing at 100%. I'm going to go Nico. More involvement, less volume competition. It's good news for me. All right. Big Ant NJ says, I bet Swift and Kamara anytime touchdown today, and I bet the farm. I'm feeling generous, and I'm from the future. Figured I would share the wealth for anyone with the balls to bet it. You are welcome. Little anytime touchdown parlay. You might have me on that one. I'm thinking about it. Do I go on underdog and put $5 for it? Swift and Kamara. Kamara's got the high usage. Swift, I mean, Montgomery is back, but those guys have been compatible. I'm from the future. That's a bold statement. So it's going to hit, huh? I'll think about it. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so MA Football Guy says, will do. No problem. Jelly of the Month says, should have a bye. I've got Denver for Week 16. Should I drop Goddard? I have Freiermuth for the Rams defense against New York. Normally, making a move like that for a defense is not something I'm the biggest fan of because we're going to stream them anyway. But a team facing a New York offense that's struggling to put up 10, 11, 12 points a game, that piques my interest. So, Jelly, I would actually do that. Muth has been good, so I think we take the Muth. I'm going to dive into this Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift. I said Gibbs earlier. I've got my mind all tangled up. Going up against San Fran, really. Okay. Removed from the injury report. We've got 2 touchdowns the last 4 weeks. High usage for Swift, relatively speaking. Very efficient. Let me see if you're on to something here. That scares me. Yes, though, we do have one of the best rushing teams in the league. My worry is, let's say Philly gets a rushing touchdown. What are they going to do if they're on the 2 or 1 yard line? It's going to Jalen Hurts. I mean, sure, DeAndre Swift does have 5 total touchdowns. How many more would he have if not for the brotherly shove? But, okay. And then Alvin Kamara. I mean, the odds are probably pretty good on that, right? Kamara going up against Detroit. Oh, I said they were going up against a division rival earlier. What am I talking about? This feels to me like a situation where we've got a couple guys who are due. I'm interested. Got me thinking. Again, folks, Discord, free link in live chat, since the one in the description expired for some reason. I didn't even know they could do that. All right, link is in the live chat. We do general discussion. We do, again, I can just show you here. General discussion, start, sit every week. Any trade scenarios, announcements, research. I will probably do a dynasty tab because that's just its own animal. That's where you're going to have a lot more conversation in, February, March, April, May, June. And then draft discussion will start to stir back up. But yeah, the link for the Discord, which you are more than welcome to join, is in the live chat. About 10 minutes to go. Any other questions that you have, feel free to pop them in the chat here. I appreciate you joining me on this Sunday morning. Streaming a couple times a week, really prioritizing that just so I can get you immediate answers. That's the motivation for something like the Discord, so I can be more interactive with you guys. But also just for prioritizing live streams, I want to make sure that I can get you your answers in real time. All right, so Chris Olave, again, he's in. Ezekiel Elliott expected to play. Not much news there, all things considered, because Ramondre Stevenson, again, the main source of that offense, high usage scenario. Aaron Rodgers, unlikely to play this season. Jonathan Taylor out 3 to 5 weeks. That's an avoid for me in Dynasty. Go get somebody else who's more sustainable. Montgomery's on a 3-year contract, so we've got that scenario going. Marquise Brown expected to play the wide receiver 1 on an offense that has to be pass-heavy because they're losing so many games. But again, Trey McBride's been beating him out in usage. Chris Godwin, game time decision for that 3 o'clock game. Noah Brown expected to play. Tank Dell expected to play. Looks like Dalton Schultz will not. That's what we had for that. Prey's in here. What's going on, Prey? How is it going? And let me know where you're at for playoffs and stuff. Because I know things are getting kind of tight. And folks, if you join the Discord, you will also get updates from me in terms of when I'm going to stream. So I'll give you an hour, 2-hour heads up saying, hey, I'm streaming around here. I will tell anybody who's on right now, I'll be streaming at about 6:30. So when that second slate of games wraps up, I will stream ahead of the primetime Sunday Night Football game between the Chiefs and Packers. All right. We hit 10 likes on the stream. Thank you all so much. Kickoff's about to happen. I hope all of you are doing well, and I hope all of you do great here in Week 13. Any other questions, pop them in the chat. Again, join the Discord. Link is in the live chat, and we will see you in just a few hours. Good luck in Week 13, everybody.